Well, welcome back. You can see today that we are in an extra special place. This is not my house, but I will say this is my home in many ways. I am at my old university town from undergrad, and I'm in the house of one of my professors there. I actually got to stay in this house for a while when I was in school for the last semester of my undergrad to save some money. They let me stay in the room that their son had just vacated because he went off to grad school. And it was such a beautiful and delightful time. So though this isn't my house, I in many ways consider this my home. And I even wrote a poem about this very hearth, saying it was a smoky brick-backed pew. And I figured what better place to do one of George MacDonald's Unspoken sermons than in this pew here that I used to love so much. I'm just delighted to be here and get to spend Thanksgiving with some of my family. But today we'll be talking about another of George MacDonald's sermons, this one called The Higher Faith. And if you remember our last sermon about the consuming fire, he ended off with this verse about those who have not seen yet have believed. And so that's what he's going to start this one off with. He says, Jesus saith unto him, Thomas, because thou hast seen me, thou hast believed. Blessed are they who have not seen and yet have believed. John 20:29. So in this one, he's talking about this idea of a child going to a dull disciple, a dull student in this case, learning some material. And this dull disciple will kind of shut down the student's curiosity because it isn't explicitly addressed in the Bible. And MacDonald thinks that that's not the ideal way for faith to grow in an individual, just to only go off of what you see in the Bible. And so I really love this one, and I'm excited to read through it. And I'm going to actually end up reading a lot of it because it's just that good. So I'll do my best to weave some extra material out so that it's not too long, but I think that it has a lot of great quotes in it. So I'll go ahead and start off here. He says, the aspiring child is often checked by the dull disciple who has learned his lessons so imperfectly that he has never got beyond his school books. Full of fragmentary rules, he has perceived the principle of none of them. The child draws near to him with some outburst of unusual feeling, with some scintillation of lively hope, some wide-reaching imagination that draws into the circle of religious theory the world of nature, and the yet wider world of humanity. For to the child the doings of the Father fill the spaces. He has not yet learned to divide between God and nature, between providence and grace, between love and benevolence. The child comes, I say, with his heart full, and the answer he receives from the dull disciple is, God has said nothing about that in his word, therefore we have no right to believe anything about it. It is better not to speculate on such matters. However desirable it may seem to us, we have nothing to do with it, and it is not revealed. For such a man is incapable of suspecting that what has remained hidden from him may have been revealed to the babe. With the authority, therefore, of years and ignorance, he forbids the child, for he believes in no revelation but the Bible, and in the word of that alone. For him all revelation has ceased with and been buried in the Bible, to be with difficulty exhumed and with much questioning of the decayed form, reunited into a rigid skeleton of metaphysical and legal contrivance, for letting the love of God have its way unchecked by the other perfections of his being. But to the man who would live throughout the whole divine form of his being, not confining himself to one broken corner of his kingdom, and leaving the rest to the demons that haunt such deserts, 1,000 questions will arise to which the Bible does not even allude. Has he indeed nothing to do with such? Do they lie beyond the sphere of his responsibility? Leave them, says the dull disciple. I cannot, returns the man. Not only does that degree of peace of mind without which action is impossible depend upon the answers to these questions, but my conduct itself must correspond to these answers. Leave them at least till God chooses to explain, if he ever will. No. Questions imply answers. He has put the questions in my heart. He holds the answers in his. I will seek them from him. I will wait, but not till I have knocked. I will be patient, but not till I have asked. I will seek until I find. He has something for me. My prayer shall go up unto the God of my life. Sad indeed would the whole matter be if the Bible had told us everything God meant us to believe. But herein is the Bible itself greatly wronged. It nowhere lays claim to be regarded as the Word, the way, the truth. The Bible leads us to Jesus, the inexhaustible, the ever-unfolding revelation of God. It is Christ in whom are hid all treasures of wisdom and knowledge, not the Bible, save as leading to him. And why are we told that these treasures are hid in him who is the revelation of God? Is it that we should despair of finding them and cease to seek them? Are they not hid in him that they may be revealed to us in due time? That is, when we are in need of them? I'll pause there for a moment, though there's much more to come. I think that this is something I feel like I've never really heard addressed in any sermon before. The idea of questions beyond the sphere of the Bible. And MacDonald's going to make the case that we should understand God well enough to kind of extrapolate his will into other avenues that are not explicitly stated in the Bible. And I think that's nice. I keep saying that, but it's true. MacDonald is full of comments like this. We'll get to more of them here. Is he not the high priest of his brethren to answer all the troubled questionings that arise in their dim humanity? For it is his heart which contains of good, wise, just, the perfect shape. Didymus answers, no doubt, what we know not now we shall know hereafter. Certainly there may be things which the mere passing into another stage of existence will illuminate, but the questions that come here must be inquired into here, and if not answered here, then there too until they be answered. There is more hid in Christ than we shall ever learn, here or there either. But they that begin first to inquire will soonest be gladdened with revelation, and with them he will be best pleased. For the slowness of his disciples troubled him of old. To say that we must wait for the other world to know the mind of him who came to this world to give himself to us seems to me the foolishness of the worldly and lazy spirit. If we were once filled with the mind of Christ, we should know that the Bible had done its work, was fulfilled, and had for us passed away, that thereby the word of our God might abide forever. The one use of the Bible is to make us look at Jesus, that through him we might know his Father and our Father, his God and our God. Till we thus know him, let us hold the Bible dear as the moon of our darkness, by which we travel towards the east, not dear as the sun whence her light cometh, and towards which we haste, that, walking in the sun himself, we may no more need the mirror that reflected his absent brightness. I really love that image of holding the Bible dear, but dear as the moon, which is a reflection of the sun, as opposed to the sun itself. Because the Bible is just to point us to Christ. But what he says here could be dismaying to some, because it sounds like he is like giving a concerning dismissal of the Bible utterly. But I think he's more saying that we shouldn't treat the Bible as the third person of the Trinity. I think that the Bible has its place, and that's to point us to Christ, is what he's saying. He continues, what I want to say, and show if I may, is that a man will please God better by believing some things that are not told him, than by confining his faith to those things that are expressly said to arouse in us the truth-seeking faculty, the spiritual desire, the prayer for the good things which God will give to them that ask him. But is this not a dangerous doctrine? Will not a man be taught thus to believe the things he likes best, even to pray for that which he likes best? And will he not grow arrogant in his confidence? That's, of course, his imagined response from other people when they hear this. He continues to refute that by saying, if it be true that the Spirit strives with our spirit, if it be true that God teaches men, we may safely leave those dreaded results to him. If the man is of the Lord's company, he is safer with him than with those who would secure their safety by hanging on the outskirts and daring nothing. If he is not taught of God and that which he hopes for, God will let him know it. He will receive something else than he prays for. If he can pray to God for anything not good, the answer will come in the flames of that consuming fire. These will soon bring him to some of his spiritual senses. But it will be far better for him to be thus sharply tutored than to go on a snail's pace in the journey of the spiritual life. And for arrogance, I have seen nothing breed it faster or in more offensive forms than the worship of the letter. So good. I'll skip over a little bit here, and he continues. What a man likes best may be God's will, may be the voice of the Spirit striving with his Spirit, not against it. And if, as I have said, it not be so, if the thing he asks is not according to his will, there is that consuming fire. The danger lies not in asking from God what is not good, nor even in hoping to receive it from him, but in not asking him, in not having him of our counsel. Nor will the fact that we dare not inquire his will preserve us from the necessity of acting in some such matter as we call unrevealed. And where shall we find ourselves then? All right, I'll skip over a little bit here, but he continues with these ideas, saying, what should I think of my child if I found that he limited his faith in me and hope from me to the few promises he had heard me utter? The faith that limits itself to the promises of God seems to me to partake of the paltry character of such a faith in my child, good enough for a pagan, but for a Christian a miserable and wretched faith. Those who rest in such a faith would feel yet more comfortable if they had God's bond instead of his word, which they regard not as the outcome of his character, but as a pledge of his honor. They try to believe in the truth of his word, but the truth of his being they understand not. In his oath they persuade themselves that they put confidence. In himself they do not believe, for they do not know him. Therefore it is little wonder that they distrust those swellings of the heart which are his drawings of the man towards him, as the sun and moon heave the ocean mass heavenward. Brother, sister, if such is your faith, you must not stop there. You must come out of this bondage of the law to which you give the name grace, for there is little that is gracious in it. You will yet know the dignity of your high calling, in the love of God that passeth knowledge. He is not afraid of your presumptuous approach to him. It is you who are afraid to draw near him. He is not watching over his dignity. It is you who fear to be sent away as the disciples would have sent away the little children. It is you who think so much about your souls and are so afraid of losing your life that you dare not draw near to the life of life, lest it should consume you. Our God, we will trust thee. Shall we not find thee equal to our faith? One day we shall laugh ourselves to scorn that we looked for so little from thee, for thy giving will not be limited by our hoping.
Alright, I'm going to pause here for a second because I am just editing the video and I realized that I just plowed right on through a lot of the text without any sort of commentary. So I thought I'd stop for a second and look back and talk a little bit about the fun things that I saw in this last section. I think one of the most convicting things and one of the most important things to hear in this last section was his comment about arrogance and how he has seen nothing breed it faster or in more offensive forms than the worship of the letter. And later on in this section he was talking about how we must come out of this bondage of the law to which you give the name of grace. And I think that's an important thing to hear, that following the letter of the law can often become arrogance. Another one of the points that I liked that he made was about how if his children only believed of him the things that they had explicitly heard him say, then that would just be a really tragic understanding of him as their father. I think that's a really nice way to think about our relationship with God, though, that if we only can believe the things that are in the Word explicitly, then we aren't understanding Him as much as we're understanding the Word, and our priority should be understanding Him, and then we will understand the Word more. I think that's a lovely kind of topsy-turvy idea. And finally, there's this little part here, returning to the imagery of the sun and moon, saying, "Therefore it is little wonder that they distrust the swellings of the heart, which are his drawings of the man towards him, as the sun and moon heave the ocean mass heavenward." And I think that's really great. The sun as Christ and the moon as the Word, the Bible, and we are the heavy ocean mass, those tumultuous and fickle waters that he's slowly, through his gravitation, pulling towards him. I think that's just beautiful imagery there, that's hearkening back to his earlier comment about the sun and the moon. Anyway, moving forwards, I think it's helpful to comment now that this next section is about Paul, and Paul's bundling up of the Gentiles into the church. So when he's talking about those who could believe only for themselves and not for their fellows, he's referring to those who didn't think the Gentiles should join the church. It should only stick to the chosen few, the Jews. Anyway, I hope that helps you understand what's about to come, because it's a very, I think, powerful statement, but it's maybe hard to track if you didn't know that he was talking about Paul. I think he just assumed that we would catch on to that, but it's helpful, I think, to hear it explicitly beforehand. Anyway, I'll get back to it.
O thou of little faith, in everything, I am quoting your own Bible, nay, more, I am quoting a divine soul that knew his Master Christ, and in his strength opposed apostles, not to say Christians, to their faces, because they could not believe more than a little in God, could believe only for themselves and not for their fellows, could believe for the few of the chosen nation for whom they had God's ancient word, but could not believe for the multitude of the nations, for the millions of hearts that God had made to search after him and find him. In everything, says St. Paul, in everything by prayer and supplication, with thanksgiving, let your requests be made known unto God. For this everything, nothing is too small. That it should trouble us is enough. There is some principle involved in it worth the notice even of God himself. For did he not make us so that the thing does trouble us? And surely for this everything, nothing can be too great. Do you count it a great faith to believe what God has said? It seems to me, I repeat, a little faith, and, if alone, worthy of reproach. To believe what he has not said is faith indeed, and blessed, for that comes from believing in him. Can you not believe in God himself? Or, confess, do you not find it so hard to believe what he has said that even that is almost more than you can do? If I ask you why, will not the true answer be, because we are not quite sure that he did say it? If you believed in God, you would find it easy to believe the word. You would not even need to inquire whether he had said it. You would know that he meant it. Ooh. Imagine the idea of knowing God so well that you can know what he means, even if he has not said it. I think that's inspiring, but you can see how maybe that would cause some problems. I'm just gonna keep reading, because this is also nice. I've read most of this already. I did not mean to, but I think that he's so powerful in what he's saying. Let us then dare something. Let us not always be unbelieving children. Let us keep in mind that the Lord, not forbidding those who insist on seeing before they will believe, blesses those who have not seen and yet have believed. Those who trust in him more than that, who believe without the sight of the eyes, without the hearing of the ears, they are blessed, to whom a wonder is not a fable, to whom a mystery is not a mockery, to whom glory is not an unreality, who are content to ask, is it like him? It is the dull-hearted, unchildlike people that will be always putting God in mind of his promises. Those promises are good to reveal what God is. If they think them good as binding God, let them have it so for the hardness of their hearts. They prefer the word to the spirit. It is theirs. Oh. So it sounds like he's saying, if those promises explicitly stated in the Bible are all you can take God for and trust God for, then he's like, well, you can have it, because you prefer the word to the spirit. However, if you can understand the nature of God, through those promises, you will be able to expect more of him and therefore be blessed more. And he does point out, though, that God's not forbidding those who insist on seeing before they believe, but blessed are those who have not seen and yet have believed. And I think that's good. I just have to just keep reading. Even such will leave us, some of them will, if not all, to the uncovenanted mercies of God. We desire no less, we hope for no better. Those are the mercies beyond our height, beyond our depth, beyond our reach. We know in whom we have believed, and we look for that which it hath not entered into the hearts of men to conceive. Shall God's thoughts be surpassed by man's thoughts? God's giving by man's asking? God's creation by man's imagination? No. Let us climb to the height of our alpine desires. Let us leave them behind us and ascend the spear-pointed Himalayas of our aspirations. Still shall we find the depths of God's sapphire above us. Still shall we find the heavens higher than the earth, and his thoughts and his ways higher than our thoughts and our ways. Ah, Lord, be thou in all our being. As not in the Sundays of our time alone, so not in the chambers of our hearts alone. We dare not think that thou canst not, carest not, that some things are not for thy beholding, some questions not to be asked of thee. For are we not all thine, utterly thine? That which a man speaks not to his fellows, we speak to thee. Our very passions we hold up to thee, and say, Behold, Lord, think about us, for thus thou hast made us. We would not escape from our history by fleeing into the wilderness, by hiding our heads in the sands of forgetfulness, or the repentance that comes of pain, or the lethargy of hopelessness. We take it as our very life in our hand, and flee with it unto thee. Triumphant is the answer which thou holdest for every doubt. It may be that we could not understand it yet, even if thou didst speak it with most miraculous organ. But thou shalt at least find faith in earth, O Lord, if thou comest to look for it now, the faith of ignorant but hoping children, who know that they do not know, and believe that thou knowest. And for our brothers and sisters who cleave to that which they call thy word, thinking to please thee so, they are in thy holy safe hands, who hast taught us that whoever shall speak a word against the Son of Man, it shall be forgiven him. Though unto him that blasphemes against the Holy Ghost, it shall not be forgiven. And that's where we start the next sermon, with that idea from Luke there. Anyway, I hope it was okay that I just read almost straight through this. I did skip over some paragraphs here or there, and I didn't interject any additional books, partially because I'm here in my old hometown and want to go wander around and visit with people, but also partially because I didn't want to bring the books that I would reference. So I hope that was right. I hope you understood it. I think that it is a lovely idea to have the hope that we could know God well enough to understand his desires, what he would want, even if he didn't explicitly say it at some point in the Bible. Anyway, this is the day after Thanksgiving, and what better thing to be thankful for than a wonderful host family, a wonderful home, and a God who does not forbid but encourages inquiry into him and to nature. As a scientist, I gotta appreciate that. Anyway, y'all have a lovely rest of your day, and I'm gonna go romp around outside.